looks like JS Grulke may be ready.
Okay.
Ooh,
To
all
join.
right.
All right. So we're gonna do JS Grulke first because his makeup is done.
Wow.
I'm no
look
Ramon, you know.
The makeup is on point.
Sorry, everyone.
Right? Sorry to disappoint.
Well, Justin, thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, of course. No,
Yeah.
thanks for having me.
All right. So Gary, I think you might maybe you can run this interview since this
Yeah.
is your man here.
So, Leap of Faith is like, when I first read this story, I was very interested as to why frogs and where that came from. Why that was the choice.
So like a lot of people in the genre, or that a lot of different readers, was a big fan of Chrono Trigger, and
Oh yeah.
big fan of Battletoads, and you know, so I played those games a ton growing up, and then I actually I think I was still like just right out of college, and I used to have like a whole terrarium set up of with White's tree frogs. They're also known as dumpy tree frogs, or the fat little guys. I wasn't any good at keeping them.
They escaped?
But no, I bought this. So I
They
bought
withered.
no, so I got this this cool like waterfall, and it like misted, and it did all this shit, and like I had the whole setup. It looked awesome, and it had, so the mister inside of it, you know, it basically fries or burns off water, so that's where the mist comes from. Well, this the frogs would get in there, and I didn't know what was happening, and so I was frying them. They were dying. So I was like, oh shit. So yeah, so it was like 3 of them that I knocked off, and so
man.
yeah, I moved away from the frogs, but yeah, I used to raise like green anoles and you know, just little things that I had no business, you know, keeping, because like the only animal I can keep alive is a dog, basically. So, and I, you know,
It's much harder to fry a dog.
yes, yeah, you'd be surprised.
Dude, stop.
Well, we do actually have a clip from Leap of Faith. Before we get too much into the did I fix? Okay, yeah. Before we get too into it, shall I play this clip?
Yeah,
Please.
absolutely.
Do it.
Okay, all right. Here we go. Hopefully you can hear this. This is a Leap of Faith. Once my media player starts working, come on, you can do it.
Expecting her to hop away, he moved to the side. She met Henry's gaze instead, tears filling her glistening eyes.
Please hurry. They're so young.
Ott stepped forward. How many savages are there?
At least 8 of them. Disgusting creatures.
She shuddered with horror.
Especially their leader. He is pure evil.
Henry looked back down the path before turning to the former captive. How far away? Are we close?
Not far. Please, we need to get the chief.
She glanced back one last time and began running toward Mirai. Ott slung his bag over his shoulder and ran after her, totems clanking as he hurried down the road. Turning back, he gestured to Henry to follow. Come on, we need to talk to her and get more information before we go any farther. Henry cut off Ott with a wave. We don't have time to sit around in a big circle deciding what to do. Didn't you hear what she said? They're killing children. We have to go now.
Yes, killing children. We have to go.
Yeah.
All right, let's stop the sample. Once we get to the children killing.
All right. Yeah, that's probably a good place to stop.
What was that accent, Gary?
Which one?
The second to last person to talk. Ott, yeah.
The kobold? Sort of a German accent.
Of course, if it's a lizard, he's going to be German.
Why not?
Duh.
Yeah, Ott's an interesting one. I really like him. I was going to ask, so when we were like prepping this book, you were very specific on which, well, first of all, you were one of the very few authors that I've encountered that gives a ton of information as to the background of each character, how you want them to sound, how you see them in your head, and even like illustrations at one point, which is very much appreciated when creating an audio. Like because the Brug themselves, the frog people, you decided to make them kind of Irishy. Like what inspired that choice? And did you have like a very clear image of all the races in your head, like the badgers and?
Yeah, it was more of
lizards?
like it was kind of more of just, as I started writing them, and, whenever I write just in general, I kind of, I just assign a voice to them in my head, and I just roll with that kind of the whole way through the story. And so, you write and I spend so much time, writing and rewriting and editing and everything else. And you become these characters, and that's just, the picture just becomes clear in my head after, going over it and over it and over it again. Eventually it's just, that's who they are, So as far as how I picked the Irish, that's what I, kind of envisioned, just the little clans of these, these frog people, and just kind of sheltered from the rest of the world, and, just kind of in their own little community, and just, I don't know, it's just kind of what popped in my head, I guess.
Yeah. A lot like Irish people.
Right? Yeah, your own little your own little world.
That is why we chose Gary to narrate this, by the way. We knew that you wanted Irish frogs. We were like, they got to be authentic Irish frogs.
I have tried to write a book before, and I can't sit down for 2 seconds without thinking, or you like write a paragraph and think, nah, sucks, can't do it. How do you get past that, and what do you do when that happens? This is advice at this point.
So I just, I force myself to just write through it, and it's, when I first started writing, it was all over the place, and it's still all over the place. But instead of getting hung up on it, like I did my first couple books that I wrote, I'm able to just, what I do normally is writing sprints. And so I'll set 30 minutes and force myself to write for that 30 minutes. And I have a word goal. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it, but I use For the Words a lot. So it's like an RPG game for writing. So you have little monsters you got to battle, and you have a certain time limit to battle them in, and everything else. But so I find that if you just force yourself over that hump and you just go with it, the words start coming, and it's when you step back and all of a sudden you start over analyzing, and you get in your head, and it's just, you can spiral real quick. Doing that, it's still, when I still hear my writing, I'm like, oh God, I should have written that different, or like anything. It's just, but I think authors in general probably do that. It's never. I think a lot of us are perfectionists.
I've come across
There's
these
always
terms.
work to do.
Was a planner and pantser? So someone who either plans the shit out of it or just sits down and goes. Which one of those fields do you fall into?
So originally when I first started writing, I was definitely a pantser, because I just had never done it before. The only writing I'd ever really done is just for work, or business related, something, completely boring. And so, when I first decided to start writing and actually try to put a book together, not just something for, just because I wanted to write a couple pages here or there, I just wrote it all down, and it didn't really flow well, and it was just kind of all over the place. For Leap of Faith or Nura Rising, I have an outline for the whole series, but I'm so ADD. And so even with an outline, I'm what they would probably call more of a plantser. So it's, I know, fancy. So I've got a plan, I've got an outline, but a lot of the time, oh man, it's like, I'll start writing a fight scene, or some, a new creature will pop into my head, and I'll be like, oh yeah, that'd be fun to write. And then I just like take it way the hell the wrong direction, and I end up way off course and have to dial myself back in. I've gotten better at following an outline and kind of knowing where I want to go with things. But yeah, it's still tough, to try and stay as true to it as possible. But it is easier if you can, I guess. But maybe not as fun.
It seems like it would be more organic, and just maybe you would come up with stuff that didn't exist in the plan, and you're like, oh shit, I like that a lot better. Mm-hmm. Was there? Well, I suppose you couldn't tell us a major key point because you got to get the book,
right? So, as far as in Leap of Faith, there wasn't. I don't know exactly where I kind of branched off. I know some of the fight scenes I ended up changing a lot. I took a lot out. I probably took close to 30,000 words out of the first book, just because I didn't like where it was going, where it was headed.
A third of the book.
Oh my God, yeah. No, I mean, it's still. I think it still ended up like 90-something thousand words, yeah. But the problem, I think my main problem is when I start writing and I do those sprints, and so I'm getting the words down, but I've got 2 small kids, a wife, and I have a normal other day job, so it's like when I can write, it's jaded sometimes. And so I will be on a roll and have, a big portion of everything all written and I'm feeling good about it. And then I come back the next day and it's like, what the hell is this? Like, like what did I just do? And it takes a while sometimes to like get back on track and make sure that I'm not like way off course or, taking it.
That's
wherever.
Tricky because sometimes that might feel like a moment of clarity where you're realizing, oh, like what have I done? But then, I mean, those moments of, I guess, inspiration where you just go for it and you go down one of those plants, that's sometimes that can lead to really great work, I imagine.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, and it's a lot of fun when it comes together like that, where all of a sudden things just start clicking. And those are like the days where I can knock out, like 5,000-6,000 words, because it's like, oh yeah, this is good. This is great. I don't want to stop, So yeah, that's the rewarding part of it, and there's other times where I'll spend a whole day and I'll be like staring at my computer screen like a dumbass. And it's like words, like what I can't even get 500 words down, so it's it's tough. It can be tough, but yeah, it's fun though.
I can imagine. How much of yourself do you put into the book? Is there one character in the book that you're like, that's me, I'm gonna put me entirely in there and no one's gonna know? Or do you just split yourself up a little bit and put a little bit into each character?
So for Leap of Faith, I more split it up. My first series, XP Unlocked, I actually wrote for my kids,
wow.
and the main characters are actually based loosely off of my daughter and my son. Yeah, and so kind of some of their little quirks and things like that. And so, I enjoy putting little bits of people I know into different characters. I think it makes them a lot more realistic. It's just, some people I don't want them to necessarily be like, was that me? Like first book, I was like putting all like family members and friends and stuff and like making characters kind of based on them. And they're like, well, was that supposed to be me? Or, so it's there's a fine line there because, you don't want to, I don't want to deal with it,
For sure.
I mean, it's some pretty badass frogs in these books. I mean,
well, hey, it's actually pretty cool though that you actually have family members and friends who will read your stuff.
Right. Yeah. The first book, getting them to read anything after, it's like, I don't think my mom's read any of my books or anything, not that I'd probably rather her not because she wouldn't know what the hell's going on, but it's like, it is what it is.
Yeah, my friends and family don't listen to my audiobooks.
Same.
Yeah.
Same.
Nope.
It seems I would be strange, I think, to listen to your friend's voice.
Yeah.
Like, right in your ear telling you a story. It's just like, can't do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Too much.
I just have to, just brag about my job as much as I can to get any of that satisfaction from the people that I know. Because then, and still, they're just like, yeah, whatever. Whatever. Is that a real job? I don't know.
Do you, Justin, do you listen to audiobooks? Do you listen to Lit RPG?
I do. So yeah, almost 100% lit RPG or game lit or cultivation. That's been for years now. I share an Audible account with my wife, and she's always like, "What the?" She's like, "What is this? Like all your damn game lit books and stuff." It's like, but it's before COVID and all this, I travel a lot for work, and so it was perfect. I mean, I drive through Kansas like all the time, and there's nothing out there, and so it's like I used to listen to a lot of books just because there was nothing else to do. Big fan of audiobooks, and actually it was listening to audio that kind of got me wanting to write and wanting to get more into it. I started with Ready Player One was kind of my loose like game lit introduction. Nice. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then kind of went from there and actually Blaze's books and then Awaken Online and just a couple of those, got me more into it and more interested. And then I just couldn't get enough. And now it's just kind of carried over. And so.
Do you find, because you mentioned earlier a little bit ADD and that you listen to audiobooks and that's what got you into writing. Do you find you consume books better in audio than on print or not? No, it's not the case.
Yes, like 100%.
It's
just
exactly the same with me.
Yeah, because when I'm driving, I can tune out and I can tune into the book, and it's just like, it's there. I'm all in, whereas I'll read, and I love reading, but if I'm trying to read a book, like I'll read 4 pages and like a minute later, I'll be like, what the hell did I just read? Yeah. And so I'll have to go back, and it takes me forever to read printed books just because I constantly have to go back to see what I missed.
I have the same
exactly
problem.
The same.
Yep.
That's what got me into audio. Yeah, looks like we all have a common thing.
Yeah, we do. That or falling asleep.
Yes.
That or like I'm either I get when I'm reading, I'll get an idea from the book. And then my brain will go off on that idea, and then I'll keep reading, but it's all just going through one eye and out the other. So
especially now, like that, we're working in audio production of books. Like, it's like, how would I narrate that? What are the sound effects, music behind that?
Yeah. Meanwhile,
I just saw
stories passing by.
I just saw Gary's question there about the audio preference always being the case. That I used to love reading books as a kid, and I just get like lost in them or whatever. I really didn't start listening to audiobooks until we bought our house. My wife and I pretty much like, we finished our basement and we painted all the interior, replaced all the doors, everything else. And it was like perfect to have on in the background. And that's really how I got into it, is we just play audiobooks as we were doing our work and stuff. And it'd just be in the background. We'd just be listening together. So so it's pretty recent.
Cool. One last thing from me. If you pass through Kansas a lot, you should let me know when you're on the Missouri side. Drop by for a drink, man.
Okay. Yep. No, I'll definitely do that.
Yeah, same if you're in Texas. Although Texas is gigantic.
I'm in West Texas a lot. So.
Who's this?
Makeup is fine.
Ramon.
Hey,
everybody.
Ramon. Ramon is here.
How's it going, everyone? Grulke, how you doing, man?
Hey, great.
Good to see you again.
Yep, good to see you as well. It's been a couple months.
I was just
Makeup on his
Lipstick on
Close
the
up on
nose
the
around
teeth?
the entire face.
Oh yeah. I was just going to ask Justin, what else do you have right now? I mean, we've got Leap of Faith, we've got Frog of War coming to the platform at the end of October. In the meantime, what would you recommend viewers do in order to get a taste of your writing?
I mean, definitely check out Leap of Faith. That'd be a great place to start. I am close to finishing the first draft of the third book in that series, and that will be the final book in that series, I'm thinking. So, so exciting times. And I'm working on some other stuff too, but
Nice.
I'm not very organized to start a Patreon or any of that other stuff. So I will just
Amazon.
release as I can.
Right on, right on.
Great. Well, thanks for coming, Justin. Are you wanting to play a game with us later?
I maybe put me back in the backstage for a minute or two, and
we'll knock on your door in the green room whenever, whenever it's time, and if you haven't OD'd or passed out by then
drank all the Dom Perignon we keep back there.
No promises.
He's enjoying the quiet time with from the kids. Yeah.
Cool.